and welcome to Pitboards and Podiums with me, Maya Westwick. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing the track guide ahead of the Canadian Grand Prix, so buckle up and let's talk F1. Alright guys, so as I said, today I am doing the track guide for the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend, and I'm going to get straight on into it. I am very excited for this race weekend, and I think it's going to be a good one. Canada, I enjoy races at Canada, so I'm excited. On Friday, we have got FP1 at 1:30pm local time. So for any of you in the UK, that's at 6:30pm. Then we've got FP2 at 5pm local time, 10pm UK time. On Saturday, we've got FP3 at 12:30pm local time or 5:30pm UK time. Qualifying is at 4pm local time, 9pm UK. And Sunday, the lights out for the race will be at 2pm local time, 7pm UK time. So let's talk about the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So the Canadian Grand Prix is held in Montreal, and that is at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Gilles Villeneuve was a Canadian Formula 1 driver. He's the father of Jacques Villeneuve, who is a Formula 1 world champion. Gilles Villeneuve only won 6 races in quite a relatively short career because he did unfortunately pass away at the 1982 Belgian Grand Prix during qualifying, and after that, the circuit was named in his honour. So the first race was held at the circuit in 1978. That was the first Canadian Grand Prix held where it has been held ever since. Before then, they were looking for a permanent home for it. And basically, the reason the circuit came about, the circuit's quite unique because it is on a man-made island in the middle of a river. So it was constructed, the Notre Dame Island was constructed for the 1967 Expo World Fair malarkey, and that is in the middle of the St. Lawrence River. Basically what they did, after they had used it for that and after they'd used it for the 1976 Olympics, the island's roads were then turned into what became the Circuit Gilles Notre Dame, as it was known at the time, and then after Gilles Villeneuve's passing, it was renamed in his honour. He, very fittingly, won his maiden Formula 1 race at the first Canadian Grand Prix at the circuit in 1978. So it is a 70-lap race around a 4.361 kilometre or 2.71 mile circuit. There are 14 turns, 8 to the right and 6 to the left, with 3 DRS zones on 3 straights. So you've got the main pit straight between turn 14 and turn 1, then you've got between turns 7 and 8, and then you've got from midway between turn 11 and 12, from that midpoint down to turn 13. So between 2 of the DRS zones, there's literally just a chicane between them, but that chicane is very tricky. And the exit of turn 14 is known as the Wall of Champions, and that is because it has famously caught out a lot of Formula 1 world champions. During the 1999 Canadian Grand Prix weekend, in the same weekend, Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve all crashed there at some point, and then since then Sebastian Vettel and Jenson Button have both crashed there as well. The race distance is 305.27 kilometres or 189.686 miles, and the race lap record is set by Valtteri Bottas. That was done in 2019 with a 1 minute 13.078 second lap. That's during a race. The qualifying lap record is held by Sebastian Vettel. That was set in Q3 of the 2018 Canadian Grand Prix qualifying, and that was a 1 minute 10.764 second lap. Pole position is situated on the left-hand side of the track, which is the inside down to turn 1, and the start line to turn 1 distance is 159 metres. 76% of the lap will be spent on full throttle with a maximum speed of 315.5 kilometres an hour or 106 or thereabouts miles an hour, and the longest flat-out section of the track is 1,190 metres, so over a kilometre. There's around 52 gear changes per lap, and the average pit stop loss is going to be about 18.2 seconds. The tyre compounds available to the teams are the 3 softest in the Pirelli range, same as the last 2 Grand Prix weekends. So we've got the C3, C4 and C5, and there are lots and lots of heavy braking moments throughout what is actually an incredibly high-speed circuit. So it's kind of like stop-starty, but it really tests the driver's skill. So there's really high braking moments with the chicanes and hairpins, But other than that, the circuit is incredibly fast and low downforce. The record for the most poles at the circuit is held by Michael Schumacher and Sir Lewis Hamilton jointly with 6, and the record for the most wins is held jointly by Michael Schumacher and Sir Lewis Hamilton with 7. And Canada is actually where Sir Lewis Hamilton won his first ever Formula 1 race, just 6 races into his career. So it is a very special place for him. Is it looking likely that he's going to win this one? No, because Mercedes are not thriving at the minute. They're not fabulous. But next year, who knows? When he's with Ferrari, we shall see. Turn 1 and 2 are known as the Senna S's. That's because from above it looks like an S. Turn 8 is Pont de la Concorde, and that is basically a very fast kink after the bridge underpass just before turn 9, so that is an incredibly high speed corner. And then turn 10 is a complete 180 degree hairpin curve where they have to use full lock, and it's similar to the Monaco hairpin. It takes a lot of skill to actually get around it properly, but it's not as slow as the Monaco hairpin either. Canada is home of the longest race in Formula 1 history, which is the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, which is coincidentally also the first Grand Prix that I can remember properly. Like, I have been watching F1 since I was a baby, since I was a tiny child, but the first like coherent memory I have got that I can remember multiple things. I can even remember like the commentators making jokes because Rihanna was there and it was raining. I can remember them singing Umbrella. Like, the first full memory of a race I have is the 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, which was over 4 hours long. So maybe that's why it's stuck in my head, because I was watching it for so long at a young age. But I love it. I just love it. And Canada, like the city of Montreal, when the Grand Prix is in town, the whole city transforms and absolutely is like alive with Formula 1. It's like a big party for a week. Of course, it is Lance Stroll's home race as well, so it would be good to see if he could do well this week, get some good points for Aston Martin. And of course, it is worth remembering that no matter where he qualifies, Esteban Ocon will be starting 5 places further back, because he does have a 5-place grid penalty from his collision with his teammate Pierre Gasly from Monaco last race weekend. A little bit of context now about the 2023 race. So the winner was Max Verstappen. He had a race time of 1 hour, 33 minutes and 58.348 seconds. Then Fernando Alonso and Sir Lewis Hamilton completed the podium. Then we had Charles Leclerc P4, Carlos Sainz P5, Sergio Perez P6, who also set the fastest lap on lap 70, the final lap of the race, with a 1 minute 14.481. Then Alex Albon P7, Ocon P8, Stroll P9, Bottas P10. Then we had Piastri P11, Gasly P12, Norris P13 with a 5-second penalty for unsportsmanlike behaviour, which was a bit of a joke at the time. Yuki Tsunoda P14, Hulkenberg P15 a lap down, Zhou P16, Magnussen P17, De Vries P18, and then George Russell and Logan Sargent did not finish the race last year. The qualifying order and the starting grid last year were different because there was 4 penalties from qualifying. So Sainz, Stroll and Tsunoda all got given 3-place grid penalties for impeding during qualifying, and Nico Hulkenberg got given 3 places for a red flag infringement during qualifying as well. Qualifying last year was affected by the weather. It was a very wet qualifying towards the end of it, so the pole time that Max Verstappen set, which was 1 minute 25.858, is obviously considerably slower than like a standard pole time for the Canadian Grand Prix, but it was still over a second faster than anybody else's Q3 attempt. So the actual qualifying order was Max Verstappen on pole, Nico Hulkenberg P2 in the Haas, Fernando Alonso P3, Lewis Hamilton P4, Russell P5, Ocon P6, Norris P7, Sainz P8, Piastri P9, Albon P10, Leclerc P11, Perez P12, Stroll P13, Magnussen P14, Bottas P15, Tsunoda P16, Gasly P17, De Vries P18, Sargent P19 and Zhou P20. But with those penalties, it meant that actually the starting grid was Verstappen, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Norris, Piastri, Albon, Leclerc, that's your top 10, then Sainz, Perez, Magnussen, Bottas, Gasly, Stroll, De Vries, Sargent, Tsunoda, Zhou. So that is everything that I was going to talk about ahead of this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix. Nice little short one, a little bit of information for you ahead of a very exciting weekend, I hope. Obviously, we have also just heard that Sergio Perez has renewed his contract with Red Bull, so he will be driving with them for another 2 years until the end of 2026, and Daniel Ricciardo will be staying with VCARB, with the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. I don't really know how I feel about that. I think it's maybe a little bit telling of where Red Bull's at, that they, at the start of the season, seemed to be in a position that they could have anybody they wanted, and now potentially because everyone's caught up to them and they're not ahead anymore, they know they've got to stick with what they've got. Like, nothing against Sergio Perez, great driver, but he hasn't been performing how they would expect him to perform if they had the car that they have had for the last few seasons. So I don't know, maybe that's me reading too much into it, but who knows? Obviously we don't know what the internal politics of Red Bull is doing at the moment. We don't know if Max Verstappen's still on the verge of leaving. There's all sorts of unknowns, so we're just gonna have to take it as it comes. But I hope you have a wonderful race weekend. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you very soon with a recap from the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode, please do let me know. Like, rate, comment, subscribe, share the podcast. I'd really appreciate it. Come and join me over on the Pitboards and Podiums TikTok, and I will see you very shortly. Bye!